My name is Henry Ochieng from CARA, the Kenya Alliance of Resident Association, and together with CSUD, we are happy to host you for this very exciting discussion that we're going to have today. I'm very sure that by the end of this session, we all will have taken away something in terms of learning and also share our experiences and the information that we have. So the main reason why we are gathered here today is to talk about issues about complete streets and urban design guidelines. And in this room, I can see a number of experts, a number of stakeholders from government and from non-government institutions. And with this rich mix of participants, I'm sure there's so much to talk about and to share. So immediately on my right is Engineer John Dirangu Maina, who is the Secretary in charge of Metropolitan Development from the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. So he's come here to represent the ministry and to tell us more about their work in regard to the subject of discussion today. We have Dr. Jacqueline Klopp from CSUD, Center for Sustainable Urban Development of Columbia University. Klopp is our partner as CARA in these initiatives, and we've had a number of policy dialogue forums together with CSUD, and we hope this one is also going to make a difference, just like the rest have made a difference. We also have Engineer Tom Opio, a consultant, and the man behind the non-motorized transport policy that we worked on last year for the Nairobi County. The policy is now the county assembly, and we are still trying our best to push for it to go through the county assembly, because we know that before that happens, even the aspect of implementation is not possible. So we hope that we should be able to work very closely with the county to ensure that we have the policy passed and the implementation to commence. Next to Engineer Tom, we have Mr. Samuel Musumba from the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA. Very key stakeholders and talk about issues of transport and safety in this country. So we'll also be addressing us on in relation to this subject, what NTSA is doing. We also have Christopher Cost from ITDP, also key players on the issues of transport and what we're going to talk about today. And Chris will be addressing us shortly on issues about global best practices and experiences, and of course any other matter that relate to this subject that we're able to share with us. We also have Susan Wothaya from UNEP. We were working with UNEP on the NMT policy last year, and through their partnership and support, we were able to have the policy in place. And of course, we'll be happy to also engage with UNEP and just listen to the things, the activities that they're engaging in, and how we can be able to join hands on this subject of complete streets and urban design guidelines. So those are the people that we are going to interact with today. But of course, as always, this is not like a lecture, so to speak. It's an interactive session. So our expectation is that as we listen to the presentation, we also have active engagement and participation by sharing your views, making your comments, asking questions, so that we can be able to learn as much as possible and agree on a common way forward as stakeholders in this sector, and how we are going to make follow-up on a number of issues.
As you know, the majority of trips in Nairobi are by foot. And everyone's a pedestrian, even if you have a car, because at some point you get out of the car and you walk. As you probably also know, pedestrians are getting killed almost on a daily basis in this city. And one of the reasons is that the sidewalk infrastructure is very poor. We haven't thought about how to design the streets for the majority of users on those streets. Engineers all over the world continue to design roads, mostly for cars. And what we've learned in many different cities across the world is that if you design better, you have proper crosswalks, ways for people to cross the street safely in logical places. If you narrow the streets and add infrastructure for people to walk properly, and also for cyclists and other non-motorized transport users, that you can have much safer street. But I think there's one person who could say this better than anyone, which is a young woman who has been a victim of poor street design and lack of safety. So I'm going to let her speak through a small film, and after that we'll start with the panel conversation.
I like mathematics because it's like playing.
Oh, sorry. So I guess we'll, that film says a lot, I think, more than we could, and why it's important. If you looked at that road in front of the school, there was no marking, there was no crosswalk, there was no sign, there was no indication to slow down, and you could see what happened. So those are some of the most basic design issues that need to be addressed. But we're now going to invite Tom Opio, who was the key consultant with the NMT policy, to talk to us.
This is NATO from World Health Organization. So you are here, CSUD Kenya and CSUD.
Mark Finer from Mobilization, also part of the capacity building project.
My name is David Kidakia. I'm a development consultant.
So today I just want to introduce this topic or this area of complete streets and urban guidelines, and it's an introduction so that we can generate an introduction to generate discussion on this topic. I had very little time to look at this issue, and I hope you will be able to fill up the many gaps that are in my presentation, and that's why we are here to discuss. So I will talk about mainly the principles of the streets, complete streets and urban guidelines, and specifically on what needs to be done in Nairobi. Now, I think we have the policy framework is there. If you look at the Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Master Plan, I think that's the latest among the very many master plans we have. One of the proposals which is good there is that we need to have a light rail transit line around the city center and create a city center that is safe, and also to make sure that we have high mobility within the center, the city center, and the area within that route around the city's CBD will be actually an NMT zone, whereby you will have pedestrians, cyclists, or even people who have come for recreation or tourism can actually walk around the CBD without the fear of motor vehicles knocking them. And the proposal again is to have a BRT on radial and circumferential routes around the CBD, and I'm happy that there's a lot of movement in BRT lines. Ian is there to do that, and a few other consultants are also in the town designing these routes. The first point here is very important. We need to have facilities that meet user requirements. And the user requirements, all of us, whether we are in cars or walking, is safety. We need to have coherent, especially for pedestrians, complete and direct, because you don't have too much energy like the vehicles. And what we have for NMT is that we design the motor vehicle network, then we try to fit pedestrians on that network. The networks should be different because our travel characteristics are different. People do not walk, in sharp corners or intersections with some radius. We need to have the motor vehicle network, we need to have a cyclist network, we need to have a public transport network, and we need to have pedestrian network. And that pedestrian network should be the most dense. Even walking in the CBD is a nightmare because there are pedestrian networks which have been blocked.
Chris here is going to give us a more deeper insight about best practices, not just in Kenya, but across the globe.
Good morning, Mambo. Okay. Well, I really want to thank Kara and Columbia University for putting on this session because I think it's really critical that we drill down into what's going wrong. There's a lot of good effort these days to build pedestrian facilities and cycle tracks in Nairobi, but a lot of them aren't panning out. You know, they're not usable at the end of the day. They're in bad condition. And so how can we change the situation to achieve more of the good practices that Tom just talked about? I personally was amazed when I saw Mangina Street the first time. It's a beautiful street. I mean, I think it's one of the better streets I've seen in any city. And so we have examples here, but we need to see how to make sure that that's done everywhere in the city. We need to make sure that all the facilities are accessible. So that should be a minimum standard for any footpath you build. If you're in a wheelchair, you should be able to get on it. And then finally, we need to actually understand human behavior and not just assume that we can always direct people to, move in a certain way. Let's look at how people are actually moving in the environment and then design according to that. And I think if we keep these principles in mind, then we'll get much better results in the end. And when we're developing the street design guidelines, we should make sure that we really take these ideas to heart. That's all I have. Thanks a lot.
Engineer Derangu would like to make his remarks because he's supposed to leave. But just before you do that, let's finish with the other non-state actors or people from the other side, and then now you'll be able to give the remarks. So I want to request Susan from UNEP just to give us a brief remarks on Share the Road initiative and what they're doing as UNEP, and then now we can be able to have Engineer Derangu.
I am from UNEP, Share the Road Initiative. It's a program that is run by UNEP and FEAR Foundation for automobile societies. So the program is mainly based here in Nairobi, but we work mostly in East Africa. Most of our work we have done in East Africa, Uganda, Nairobi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Burundi, as well as also a bit of in Tanzania, just a bit. So for Share the Road, our main goal is to promote walking and cycling. There is a lot happening for the motorized transport, as you see from the presentations that we've had, but little is being done for those who are walking and cycling. So our main aim is to shift out the prioritization of those who are the minority, those who are using the motor vehicles, to now the majority, who are those who are walking and cycling. So most of the work that we have done has been mostly in Kenya, starting the main goal, which is to come up with policies for non-motorized transport, as we view that as the key starting point for investing in non-motorized transport infrastructure, because if we do not have a basis of how we are going to invest in non-motorized transport, then it's going to be futile. But when we have policies, at least we have a basis of what we are going to invest in. So as you've heard, we worked with CARA and also the county government for Nairobi. That was in last year, and the policy was launched in March 2015, last year. So, and now the follow-up work has been now to try and get the policy implemented so that it can become a reality, because you don't want it just sitting on the shelves.
We prepared something for you. I'm working very closely, by the way, with OPIO in some of my programs. And some of the programs, by the way, touch on some of these issues. Basically meaning, unlike where we would be saying that street, urban design issues of NMT facilities have not been given clear recognition by government, that would be an understatement, because I think government is doing exactly that. But let me read, because it covers, the speech covers a little bit of all the issues that I'm mentioning. I do know that initially, I think the invitation was done to our PS Irongo. Currently, we have 5 ministries under one. In fact, it's not transported infrastructure now. It's a bigger ministry now. Maybe for purposes of records, is Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. We have 5 PSCs. And the 2 PSCs that are very relevant, 3 PSCs that are relevant to this subject will be the PS in charge of infrastructure, PS in charge of transport, and PS in charge of housing and urban development. So ideally, finally it landed to the PS housing and urban development, and that's how it found its way to me. I hope you can see the relationship, isn't it? So let me just read what I have. This is, I'm reading on behalf of the PS, Ida Munano. And it gives me great pleasure to join you in today's forum. I congratulate Kala and other institutions that just over 15 years ago, you have expanded the interactive space for stakeholder engagement through several of the fora that you organize. As government, we are always ready and available for these very constructive discussions. As you may recall, we were with you again during the 46th bi-monthly talk series on the 16th November 2015, and I trust that the intercourse we then had on public space protection, gain challenges and impact on urban development has seen our people enjoy better services. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm aware that you are the apex body, representative, a proactive voice and action of resident associations on consumers and taxpayer lives countrywide, and that you focus on improving access to public service delivery, even as you embrace evidence-based advocacy and public-private partnership. For these reasons, Kala and government converge on very many fronts. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to remind ourselves that a street, unlike a road, is a public thoroughfare that also facilitates public interaction. It serves as a catalyst for the neighborhood prosperity, culture, and solidarity. The government therefore appreciates that a good street is a basic necessity for our being as a people. As Kenyans, we are inherently social and love interacting, and streets offer the invaluable opportunity to do so in an urban setting environment.
I had some remarks to make, but I chose to just share the remarks in terms of a presentation so that we can be able to engage on the conversation today. And I want to start from the onset by really thanking Kara for inviting us to be part of this dialogue. It is very critical for us as an institution. I think we'll be part and parcel of it just moving forward. This conversation today, ladies and gentlemen, resonates very well with some of the challenges that we, as an institution, we are really struggling with. And when Engineer Tom talked about this conversation having been there for long until people are aging with it, and I kept asking myself, really, I think our priorities are just not right, maybe as a country, because this is really very, very critical. And I just don't understand how sometimes we lose steam over some of these thoughts. I remember sometime last year, we launched a campaign called Save 1,000 Lives, ourselves together with the National Road Safety Trust. And the whole idea behind the Save 1,000 Lives campaign was to address especially the pedestrian fatalities that we have, especially in Nairobi. Nairobi is a leading county in the country in terms of fatalities, and especially pedestrian fatalities. And we invited many stakeholders to join us, individuals of goodwill, to think together with us and see how we'd address this. And we came up with a very innovative initiative. One of the interventions was to separate the vehicular traffic and the human traffic, especially on the high-risk roads. And we thought these roads, we need just to separate the two by constructing what we call pedestrian fences just along those roads, the guardrails. And this was a very noble idea, but then somewhere along the way, it's like we lost steam for it. We have very few people coming on board to participate in the initiative and this kind of thing. And I'm just alluding to this by the fact that sometimes we lose out on very good initiatives, interventions. But I think this conversation should take us not to lose that steam, but to really up the game and just get it right. We need to get it right. And as government, we are committed to that, just ensure that we get it all right. We have to secure our people, secure our streets as we go on. Nairobi, per last year, contributed to about 23% of the entire road fatalities in the country, and 73%, like we saw in the representation there, actually are pedestrians. And on those roads, the roads that I've highlighted, the 9 roads, the common things that you see on that road, just like we've seen on the North Airport Road, you'll always see a very high pedestrian and vehicle traffic. Very high, all the time. Morning, lunch hours, in the evening, very heavy. That prolific is so high. There are also high speeds. Guys doing relatively very high speeds on those roads. We've tried to talk about the 50 kilometer per hour, but we still have issues. People are challenging us. Some threatening to take us to court, and that kind of thing. But look at those figures. Honestly, if nothing is done, if we don't slow down the speeds on our streets, on our roads, trust me, we may go over and above these numbers.
Engineer Remba tells me that he doesn't have a presentation as such, but of course, given that it's from the county government, we'll be keen just to hear maybe 1 or 2 views from you on what you think about what we're discussing and how the county government can contribute to the same. So I don't know if you want to make a 1 minute, and then we'll be able to engage on the questions.
Good morning, everyone, once again. I want to thank Kara for inviting us to this dialogue forum, and I'm here to represent the County Executive Committee member for Roads, Public Works and Transport, Mohamed Abdullahi. And like I was telling Henry that the County Executive Committee member was unable to make it this morning because of an urgent engagement here with the governor. But it sent me to say that the NCC government is committed to enhancing the use of NMT in Nairobi, and specifically to make it the mode of choice for the short and medium trips, at least within the city. And this can be demonstrated through the fact that the NMT policy has actually been approved by the county executive, and it is just awaiting the approval of the county assembly as per the law. And in the policy, I could say that even before it is implemented, the county has already started putting in the measures through prioritization, planning, and even funding. And at the moment, even in the year 2014-2015, that is ending this June, 20% of the budget that was allocated to the transport, roads and public works sector was actually used for NNT and public transport. So we've been able to link a few areas in Nairobi, especially the CBD to Upper Hill, Ngara to the CBD, and there are roads that previously didn't have adequate walkways. We've been able to widen some of them at least, and then make the facility even more user friendly. And I could also confirm that measures also being put in place to even improve and enhance the capacity at the NCC. And when Susan was talking about the NNT workshop, the training that was in South Africa, actually our department sent a few of my colleagues actually were there to just actually appreciate how they appreciate the NNT in Cape Town, and even learn from how that is implemented. So, like I said, I will not make a presentation or even a speech, but we're here, and the NCC is committed to engaging with all the stakeholders, CARA, the higher institutions of learning, and all the other development partners, UN Habitat, UNEP, so that we can be able to realize the implementation of the NNT policy, which we believe is exhaustive, and if implemented, we can be able to realize the objective. Thank you very much, Henry.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a chance to ask any questions, make any comments, so that we can be able to go to the next phase. There's a microphone there. So let's get from this row, and then we'll come that side, starting from here. Yeah.
How soon are we likely to see these guidelines on NNT facilities? Because unless we have some clear guidelines that are going to guide engineers as we design the roads, people will still do the piecemeal work and may not be able to include all the requirements for NMTs. So I'm really looking forward to hear when we can have these clear guidelines to get the design of the NMT facilities, even as we design for all. Thank you.
I'm wondering, how is that going to look like? Do we really are concerned by the traffic flow of the people? Because Kibera slums is massive. If you come there in the evening when people come from work, you rarely would walk backwards. So if you are building roads and opening up, like already Kibera is moving, why? Because so many roads are being actually opened there. Even right now from Gong Road, you see they have already put a road that should actually come from Gong Road towards the bypass. So the planning of this kind actually needs to engage and involve the people there, because they should understand. And I would love that from this meeting, one of the way forward is either to all of us agree that we want to see such a design in the roads that are being now open. They have not even been determined. They're just including them. Can we all, and Kara, take a lead on that, so that we see the design we're talking about here happening to the people of Kibera also. They also need to enjoy. We are all pedestrians at one point. Whether you have a vehicle, you sometimes park your vehicle somewhere and you become a pedestrian.
Part of our capacity building team, we've worked very closely with NTSA. And going on to what Ian was saying about highway engineers, it is a requirement in the UK. We've provided road safety training for a number of staff in Kenya, from the road authorities and the counties. And this is one thing we're trying to introduce in Kenya, about the importance of carrying out a road safety audit at the preliminary design stage, a detailed design, implementation, and once the scheme's in operation. These can significantly reduce the number of accidents. So I'm really good, personally I'm going to keep pushing it, because we're going to do further training, and hopefully other people will agree with that. Just a general comment about footbridges, and we have had some conflicting comments today, and I agree with both sides of the argument. They are horrible things, and however, I still think Thika Road, how on earth a pedestrian can cross 4 lanes of traffic on a high-speed road without a footbridge? I don't know. So that's a discussion.
how can that be made to happen? And that's where I think we really have to be honest with ourselves. A lot of us have never looked at the children's safety park. It has been there for how many years? Over 20 years. So to say that children are not taken care of, or these things, is not being fair to yourself and to all of us. Can we think more positively and see how we can achieve this? Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
I'm also a member of CARA, that's why I'm talking with such passion.
Yeah.
What I know is that stakeholders are involved at planning stages most of the time. And in those forums, we tell them we're going to bring a road here, connect this place to that place, what you are, your comments, they tell you we want to connect to the school and all that. It is done. But when the process is over, when we have done what we think it says, we never go back to it and say, you said ABCD, this is the design, you put it on a wall here, and you say, this is what we have come and explain it to them. That I have never participated in one like that, which means it does not really happen. When it gets to the detailed design, it's not that easy to get that design. In any case, in fact, sometimes it is even me as an engineer, to get a design is impossible. I get it from informal means, because I know an engineer in Kura. But if I can't get it, even from people who are my students, how can you get it if you are not even an engineer or a planner or anything? You can't. So there is a big problem there. And the authorities, I think the city government is here, Kenya is here, and Kura, they need to publicize these designs and explain to those people who are ignorant of the technologies of what we are doing in a way they can understand, so that they can make their comments before we implement things like that.
I just wish to point out one concern that I think came from one of the participants here on NTSA's role in terms of the issues within the CBD. We do not, as an authority, tax anybody in the CBD. We do not handle court fines in the CBD. If you commit a traffic offense, that is the role of the police, who will take over in terms of prosecuting you and all those kind of fines. We actually do not handle that. But what we do is we ensure, safer roads, safer vehicle, that will ensure compliance, that your vehicle has all the requisite documentation, the requisite permit, and all that. I mean, that just to ensure that it's in very safe conditions. But right in the CBD, we don't do what you alluded to. We do not fine anybody. And perhaps that's a notion that has been around many people. People think we take fines, we take bribe, and that kind of thing. We do not do that. We are very clean authority. We observe integrity. Our mandates are very, very clear. So we don't.
Where we went wrong on Thika Road is in the way that we think about speed. And are we really going to achieve higher speeds by allowing people to drive at 100 kilometers per hour in the mid-block? Or are we really thinking about their door-to-door speed? Because I don't think it makes any sense to be able to speed at 100 kilometers per hour in the middle section of Thika Road, and then you just get stuck in a jam for 30 minutes once you get to the CBD. And so given that situation, why not have people stop periodically along the road and have at-grade crossings, which would still get you to the CBD in the same amount of time. It's just that you don't get to overspeed on the way there. And so, if we rethink how we're designing these roads, maybe we don't need to plan for such high speeds because we can still guarantee the same door-to-door speed. But in the long term, the reality is that we can't guarantee high-speed travel in the city by just adding more lanes. And I think to address this issue of, what do you do when you have a 4-lane road? How do you allow people to cross a 4-lane road? We shouldn't have 4-lane roads in the city, right? Because if we just put a bus lane instead of that, we'd carry much more weight, a much greater number of people than we can carry in all the 4 lanes in just that single bus lane. So if we really want to have high capacities on our roads and higher speeds from door to door, then we need to have dedicated space for public transport. And the issue right now on Thika Road is that public transport, instead of having priority, is relegated to the service lane. So, to address your question, the buses aren't even allowed to stop in the main carriageway. They're supposed to get off of the carriageway into the service lane and then drop passengers and then get back on once they want to move.
So I'll ask Jackie just to come and make her closing remarks and maybe give a way forward, and then we can close the meeting. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Well, I think from the discussion today, which was very rich, you can see that there are a lot of actions that can be taken to change the conditions of the streets in Nairobi. Independent safety audits. I don't know why, with all the money coming for transport projects, there is not money to do safety audits. That I find surprising. And more engagement. There is a lot of money in this sector, and I think it's a fraction of that money that's needed to fix some of these problems, including going to the black spots and figuring out how to do redesign. Roads don't always have to look the way they look, or streets. We're transforming these places all over the world. We can give roads diets. Like I think Thika Road needs a diet. We could take away a lane or two and make it a better road for everybody. We're seeing a little bit of that in the efforts of the city, and let's support the city further to make sure we see it all scaled up and done properly. So thank you very much, and I invite you to tea.
Sure.